What's up, you guys? My name is Alex Hampton, and as you guys can see from the title, I am calling out Comedy Hype for some of the stuff they have been promoting for the last couple months. I decided to do this live because I did do it pre-recorded and I had some technical issues. So I said, you know what? Let me just go ahead and do this in real time. Now, before I get into why I'm doing this video and all the other stuff in regards to comedy hype. If this is your very first time ever watching this video, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, then hit that bell right next to it. That way you get all the notifications of every time I'm releasing a video here on my YouTube channel. So I just had to make some quick adjustments to my camera. All right, you guys, let's go ahead and jump into it. So to give you some context about Comedy Hype and why I'm doing this and all this other stuff. So, Comedy Hype is a YouTube channel that basically does reporting on like comedy news, black comics, entertainment news, and also things that don't have to do with comedy as well. They talked about the Drake and Kendrick beef. They've talked about a whole variety of things. They've had multiple hosts on the show, or not hosts, but commentators on the show. Um, just to give some context, I've had they've one of their co-hosts, or both of their co-hosts, Pierre and comedian Capone, were on the show. Were what was the word for it? I guess commentators. And I've actually had the opportunity of interviewing them on my show. So I got to interview Pierre, I believe, in 2020, and then in 2022 I got to interview comedian Capone. Great guys. I asked them what it was like being on Comedy Hype. I asked them how they got on Comedy Hype, and they basically broke down everything of how they got on Comedy Hype. I'm sorry if I may seem nervous in this moment. It's just I've never done a response video live before with no one watching, but I'm sure this will pick up steam once I share it out in the morning. But let's go ahead and get into it. So about 3 weeks ago, almost a month ago, Comedy Hype had did a video in regards to the Bad Boys hitting $100 million, but that video wasn't about the success of Bad Boys. It was more so about Will Smith and the Oscar slap that happened in 2022. Now, in the video, which we will watch together and I will break down, um, the owner of Comedy Hype, John Abba, basically was trying to, I guess, say that Will got away scot free to slapping Chris Rock and having a successful career since then. Ever since that has happened, and we're gonna call bullshit on that because we both know that that was not necessarily the case. Yes, he's had a successful career, but let's be very clear: Will Smith did not get off scot free for that. And also, we're going to address other things that they have talked about, not just that video, but other things that they have talked about, which I find very hypocritical, and also uh, it's negativity and affecting our culture in the media black space, but also just in the entertainment space in general. Now, to give some more context before we break down the video I'm referring to, on June 11th, I believe it was June 11th, I had tweeted Comedy Hype, and this is the tweet that I sent to them. I said, disappointed with Comedy Hype's John Abba's take on Will Smith. John needs to let the Oscar slap go, especially when Will has already addressed it. I'll be doing a video on Comedy Hype, the video holding Comedy Hype accountable for promoting black culture in a negative way. Stay tuned. Now, I believe that was June 11th. I'm sorry if I said June 10th. I meant to say June 11th. Now, you're probably wondering, why am I responding now? We're all the way in July, June 6th. Well, my thing is that if you're going to hold somebody accountable, especially a media entity, especially in this space, if you're going to take a shot at the king, I'm not gonna miss. So I'm not gonna try to miss when I'm breaking down why as black people and black even black entertainers need to hold this particular organization accountable for some of the things that they have been not only talking about in their videos but promoting as well. So I did send this tweet out. Now John Abba from Comedy Hype, I believe, also responded to my tweet, and this was his response to my tweet. I have it pulled up here. Yes, there it is right there. So here it is. So this is what John Abba said in his tweet. John Abba wrote Abba because I spelled his name wrong. I spelled it with two B's instead of one. But John said, consistent forgiveness is why we continue to be pushed around. Hold us accountable. We're not running from it. Okay. Well, if you're not running from it, I hope you stick to the end of the video because I want you to receive what's coming your way, sir. And not I just want you to receive what's coming in regards to addressing the issues that I've had with this particular platform over the last few months. Because this is, to me, this is, I think certain things like the video you released about 3 weeks ago and even future videos have been uncalled for. So now let's get into the thing that I want to hold them accountable for along with other videos. Now, this is the video I am referring to. I'm going to pull it up on my screen as well. All right. This right here is the video that I'm referring to. Now, we're going to break this down and I'm going to give you my points about it. I'm going to give you what I think about it. And we're not going to watch the whole video. We're just going to respond to some of the comments that were being made by John Abba in particular. Who you're looking at now is the main host for the comedy news show. Her name is Symphony. Great commentator, knows how to break things down and knows how to have a very even objective perspective. So we're going to break this down and let's go ahead and get into the video. So I will skip through some of it, but for the most part, we are going to address what John Abba had to say. All right, let's go ahead and get into the video.
Excited to discuss this further. But let's first talk about what we see with the movie, how well it's doing, over $104 million. What's your reactions to seeing the movie do so well?
I'm not surprised. Bad Boys is a proven entity. My biggest problem that I have with the whole conversation is that, it's showcasing that you can hit a black man in front of millions and still conquer the world. And that's the message that I'm kind of like seeing that we're not picking up on, because we're all celebrating Will Smith and Martin doing their thing. But at the end of the day, what is the message being sent? Because if you ask yourself, if Chris Rock was a white comedian, a Jerry Seinfeld, a Tom Hanks, a Billy Crystal, would we see this play out? Would they allow it to play out this way for Will Smith? And I think that's where it goes back to us as a people, that we have to really take ownership in who we are and just think about like the messages that are being sent out. So that's my optics on it, because optics are everything. But it's like, damn, okay, what did we really learn from this?
Yeah.
So I'm going to address that. We're going to get back to what he said about optics or everything. Yeah, because I got some points I want to really address. I will say I do agree with him. If it had been like Jerry Seinfeld or been, any other white comedian or white actor, obviously the response would be definitely different. So I do agree with him when he makes that point. However, I think Symphony's going to break down and give him, I guess, some commentary that he definitely needs to hear. A very even perspective, but I'm also going to add my own commentary. So let's go ahead and continue watching the video.
I know we've had discussion before, but before even diving to it, because I think there's still a few layers, I want to reread some of the comments because there are people that are agreeing, like, hey, you know, there needs to be a bigger conversation. I mentioned some of these earlier, but now I want to respond to what you said earlier. But first, I want to go into this conversation. I think it kind of all loop together.
Sure.
Do you agree with Stephen A. that Will Smith still owes the Black community a conversation? He said not necessarily an apology, but he owes us a conversation.
I don't know if he necessarily owes us a conversation in the way of an apology or some type of like, hey, like, because clearly that was between him and Chris Rock.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more so, how can it be addressed again that what he did on national or international TV against another Black man was so wrong enough? How can he make sure that's kind of like known? I think Will Smith, how can he help amplify that? Is that a conversation with us? Is that us sitting down really making sure that it's a real issue and that it's something that should not happen again? Like, those are the things that I'm more so worried about, because again, remember when Kanye was out here, he had his slick comments about George Floyd, and then he also had his things about the Jewish community, but he was quick to apologize to the Jewish community and kind of like waited a little bit to apologize to us. That's where my conversation is at, is a little bit of like, we have to hold each other accountable. We have to definitely hold the establishment accountable, that when we are disrespected, assaulted, talked bad about, it shouldn't be able to, you just ride off into the sunset. Not saying that Will Smith stops working, things don't happen for him anymore. It just, I think that's just where like it just doesn't really sit well with me. But
yeah.
So I'm gonna definitely let you finish Symphony, but I have to add in my commentary in regards to what we just saw. So he talked about holding people accountable. He also talked about optics. He talked about you shouldn't be able to do what Will Smith did and ride off into the sunset. All right. Again, like I said, I'm taking my shot and I'm not going to miss. When that slap happened back in 2022, March 27th, 2022, to be exact, fun fact, that was my birthday. Will Smith became the butt of every joke, every meme, every funny video, every funny reel, every TikTok video, whatever you can think of. Will Smith became essentially the butt of every joke. He was humiliated publicly for nearly 2 years. I mean, even now you still see memes and videos of people making fun of Will Smith even after his success in Bad Boys. Not only was he the butt of every joke, not only was he ridiculed, not only was he, made fun of. And I don't know if John Abba has selective memory, but I remember very well that he was banned from the Oscars for 10 years. So even if he is nominated and happens to win, he can't go to the Oscars because of what he did. He can't accept his award at all. And also, the very movie that he did with Antoine Fuqua, I believe it was called Emancipation. That film almost got delayed because of his actions. And that movie was coming shortly after the Oscars had aired. Not only that, there were other projects that he was supposed to do that certain studios pulled out of. Even Bad Boys 4 was delayed in filming and getting ready to start the process of filming based upon his actions. Thankfully, they were able to film that movie, and obviously it came out and it's done what it's done. But Will Smith faced dire consequences behind his actions. And even when he came out and apologized first on Instagram with the written post, when he apologized to Chris and the general public, he was still made fun of. His name was still dragged through the mud. I would also like to take you back in time where when he put out the apology video, well, actually before then, Tony Rock, I believe either the next day after the slap or a couple days later, Tony Rock literally called him out during his tour. And that went viral, where he was talking about him and his wife. And he said, every time I come out, I'm coming out to a Tupac song. I mean, Will Smith went through the ringer to the point where, you know, him assaulting someone, which I don't condone at all. He could have been like severely canceled, but also put in jail for what he did. But by the grace of God, he wasn't. So I feel like what you're saying in this point is disingenuous because you're skating over the fact that Will went through trials and tribulations, not only on a public level from everybody, receiving scrutiny from everybody, but even on a professional level where projects were affected, things were pushed back, things were delayed, and also there were certain projects that were canceled. So, I mean, at the end of the day, regardless of what you may think of Will, to say that he was able to ride into the sunset is disingenuous. And I would think as someone as a Black owner of a media company, you would know better to say something like that. You know, and spit out the facts of actually what happened during that time, because I remember vividly Will Smith went through the ringer, not just with the public perception, but professionally too. I mean, even to the point where Chris Rock's mom came out and said that she was disappointed of what he said or what he did, excuse me. So we're going to jump back into the video and we're going to see what his co-host, which I agree with 100% what Symphony's about to say. But let's go ahead and jump into what she had to say because her points are very important as well.
I would say I disagree. I think, well, one, I want to respond. I'll start with Stephen A. Smith. To me, even the way he's like talking, it doesn't even feel genuine. It feels like, you know, like when you think you got something, it's like,
we want to have a certain angle. And
right, correct. But we know Stephen A. Smith, like obviously for sports, yes, but Stephen A. Smith is entertaining. Like he knows what to say to ruffle people's feathers and start conversation. So one, it doesn't even feel like a genuine, like, oh, he needs to have a conversation. But two, I don't agree with your statement earlier about that this shows that you can slap a Black man and continue on. And the reason being is because Chris Rock had an opportunity to press charges and he chose not to. Now, I would feel that way if Chris Rock tried to press charges and it didn't go through, or, you know, he got off of something, like as if he was charged, you know, Will Smith being charged for something and then got off and then was able to do Bad Boys 4 and doing all these interviews with Martin. But for me, he did his part by apologizing. He did his part by stepping away and doing whatever he needed. And he reached out to Chris. Like this fake, or, you know, as we were talking about before the show, this selective outrage, and it's, you know, ironic enough, no pun intended, but it's just like people want to be upset and attach certain things like, oh, you need to have a conversation with the Black community just because it's hype right now. That's what. Well,
I think
it's not real.
For me, the issue just deals with the conversation around privilege as well.
Yes, it's the thing.
Will Smith is kind of like a star. He's not like a Black star. He's like a star. Like he's got white fans, Asian. He's got everyone locked in.
Correct.
So we were able to see a star take away the color, do something that you and I would have got arrested for, would have been villainized for if
kicked out of the Oscars,
in handcuffs,
correct,
restrained. So we saw a star do that. I'm just about fairness, and I think that I'm gonna let you finish. I'm about fairness,
man. No, we're not. Privilege is a thing. Yes. Is it fair? Absolutely not. But the moment that privilege is in benefit for us, we're not like, oh, hey, that's like if you get pulled over and let's say it's a Black cop, you're like, you know what, man, I'm gonna give you a break today.
I understand.
Like you, my brother,
that.
You're not gonna be like, no, give me my ticket.
That.
I did wrong. Like,
I understand that, but
he didn't get any charges pressed against him. What is he supposed to say? Charge me. Please.
Going back to when we talked about Puff, I'm seeing you break the law on camera.
Okay, but again, Puff won that's different. What we saw him beat a
but
woman.
He's still not.
He beat
He's
a woman
still out dancing
because
in
of
Miami.
What? The law.
This nigga really tried to compare Puff and Will Smith slapping Chris Rock. So let me address some of the points that were being made. So, like I said, I agree with Symphony. Had Chris Rock had pressed charges and Will Smith was able to get away scot-free, I think then I would understand the outrage of people just talking about how Will is beating the system and not being held accountable for his actions. But that didn't happen. Will actually took accountability for his actions. I mean, he owned the fact that he slapped Chris Rock. He owned that. The fact that and I think, and again, this goes to a larger point I'm going to make towards the end, but this goes to um when people are trying to smear individuals or put people down, put certain black individuals down as they're trying to go on their high rise, they try to make these asinine comparisons to things that had nothing to do with them, or things that are not even comparable. They're not comparable, and I'm gonna break that down. He said that, oh well, I'm all about fairness, and look at Diddy. We saw a Diddy do something on camera, and he's still dancing in Miami. Okay, again, because I don't want to call another black man out of his name, but I know I already called him the N word, but let me be more civil, because that's not me. So I apologize for using that terminology, but I will say this. Will Smith owned the fact that he slapped Chris Rock. He didn't run from it. He didn't lie about it. He didn't post and say the truth will come out. He literally owned the fact that he slapped Chris Rock. Even so much so that when he was being interviewed by Trevor Noah and he broke down, how he felt from the generous response from everything and how people were coming at him, like he felt remorseful about what he did. He didn't run away from his actions. So when you say hold accountable, I'm trying to figure out, what else do you want from Will? Because he apologized. He's done multiple interviews about it. Multiple interviews. And not only that, stating back from my last point, the man was heavily ridiculed. Heavily. So what are we talking about in regards to this man getting away with slapping Chris Rock? Because I want to point out, the very next project that came out called Emancipation, nobody saw it. It was an Apple TV Plus movie. Nobody saw it. Nobody saw it. And people were still trying to process what the hell happened after the slap. Nobody saw it. Now, I'm going to address the point of you trying to compare Diddy to Will. Again, Will owned what he did. Diddy got on social media and lied and said the truth will come out about all of this, and I am innocent. I'm paraphrasing. He was basically saying he did not do any of the things that people are alleging. And then when that video came out, right, he came out with a BS and a BS apology. A very BS apology. Because he was caught red-handed lying. Now you're saying, oh, well, Diddy hasn't been held accountable. He's still dancing in Miami. Diddy is going through literally litigation as we speak. The man has now, I think he just now received a new lawsuit from a porn star, from an adult film actress. I mean, the man is literally going through legal hell. And now he's deleted all his posts off of Instagram. He's basically gone dark. Like, the man has been hit publicly based upon the lies that he told. And I think it's safe to say this, and I'm not for canceling anybody. I think people should be counseled and rehabilitated. But to be clear, Diddy is canceled. Diddy can't go anywhere in Miami, as you stated, freely. He can't go anywhere in Miami walking around without a disguise of any kind without him be publicly persecuted. He can't, unless he goes to a small part in Miami where there's no internet and no one knows who he is. And that's probably a very small part. So that comparison, again, as a media owner, is asinine. It's actually not intelligent at all, to be honest, because you're trying to conflate one issue. You're trying to compare an issue to prove a point, but it makes you look unintelligent, because Will didn't just assault Chris Rock. He did assault him, right? We saw that. We saw him slap him. But Will didn't chase him down and beat him down and throw something at him and then lie about his actions. Diddy did that to a female. Punched her, dragged her, threw something at her, and lied that none of that stuff happened. So at the end of the day, the fact that you would come up and make a point like that is asinine, very asinine. And obviously, this video was intended to smear Will Smith or make him relive a past moment that most of the general public has gotten through. Like, everyone has literally gotten past it. And on top of that, this was just to put another black man down who's trying to get his rise. Again, I'm going to address more of that as we're going to get towards the end of this video. Let's keep watching, and then we're going to kind of basically finalize my points of why I'm making this video to hold Comedy Hype accountable, okay? So let's continue watching.
Well,
he's still dancing in Miami.
I'm not saying I like it, but I don't think the two are comparable. You're talking about a grown man beating a woman on camera and paying $50,000 to have it removed, to a man who had a moment where he went on stage, slapped the guy. Chris Rock didn't respond. Afterwards, Chris Rock, as far as in the moment, I think what he said was I think he laughed and said, well, Will Smith just slapped the heck out of me.
Shocked.
Absolutely. And I say, in that moment, we saw the most vulnerable parts of both of them. We saw Chris. We know Chris' story a little bit from Everybody Hates Chris. So in that moment, I saw the childhood Chris respond. I saw Will in his most vulnerable.
This is my.
But he's a grown man.
I got you.
He could have pressed charges and he didn't.
But I'm saying though, right?
What are we asking for?
But you know how people trying to keep it cool and be player and keep it G. Chris Rock don't want to look like no snitch, because that would have been a bad look too.
So
from a hood perspective,
who are we to say, hey, you need to do more you need to do more other than apologizing to Chris Rock. You need to do more than making a public apology. What are we asking for?
But I'm saying it's not about, we're treating Will Smith as if he's the victim. Like, he's his victim in his own way.
Yeah.
But he's still been winning. He's still a winner at the end of the day. He was the one that struck this man in front of millions. And I just want us to put a value on Black people, on Black lives. That's all I'm saying.
But those are two different things.
But
I absolutely agree. There needs to be value on Black people. Okay, go ahead.
Let me continue, right?
Go ahead.
So again, if that was Will Smith slapping Leonardo DiCaprio,
right?
If that was Will Smith slapping Tom Hanks, what y'all think gonna happen?
Tom Hanks gonna sue him.
And if Tom Hanks ain't gonna sue him, the damn venue gonna sue him for just what?
Yeah, I think disrupting something,
disturbing the peace. There's so many things that, again, would have played out because how they value themselves over us.
Correct.
So I want us to take in that same account. Not saying Will Smith. I ain't trying to see no brothers get locked up. I really not.
But what?
But if he's committing a crime against another black man, we need to be able to showcase that, because I'm thinking about how Hollywood, right? Hollywood is the one that can kind of make or break you when you're in Will's position.
Right.
They can do some PR campaigns.
Correct.
They could spin it however they want.
Okay.
And so they allowed him to spin it to where, hey, we're gonna have you cool off.
Which that's what PR is for, yeah.
And because you making this money,
right,
we're gonna bring you back in.
Right. Okay, but is that Will's fault? Is it Will's fault?
It's
that
not
the video
Will, but I'm more so calling out the establishment, because they're the.
Okay, I'm done listening to this, for lack of a better word, crock of shit. Okay, so again, he tried to make the point that if it were Leonardo DiCaprio or any other white actor like Tom Hanks, this would be a whole nother conversation. We've already addressed that, and that's a moot point. We know that if Will would have slapped a white person, a white entertainer, actor, whatever, this would be a whole nother conversation. Consequences would be very different. We know that Will wouldn't be able to get away or be able to rebuild any form of a career. John, this is sad. This is very sad, because at the end of the day, you know, even, and again, I agree with what Symphony was saying during the course of this video. So, you know, nothing she said, I believe, was wrong, because what are we asking for? As a matter of fact, I just want to ask a general question for John Alba at Comedy Hype, and just for black people in general. Like, what do we want? No, seriously, what do we want? Now, Comedy Hype, like, they pride themselves as a black company who wants to promote black comedians, black voices, black entertainers, and what they do, right? And from a positive standpoint, right? Uplift, encourage, and show them what's going on within this comedy space, within the entertainment space, within the media space, right? And although I'm not against them reporting on stories that happen and having an unbiased opinion in regards to certain stories, because at the end of the day, we don't know. We only can go by what we have seen. But this video in particular is a case of putting a black man down and stumping on his neck, all because you haven't forgiven Will Smith for what he has done. You see, the problem I have with this video is the video should have been about Will Smith's success in Bad Boys 4, not what he did in 2022. And see, you want to sit there and blame the establishment. It's so funny to me, because the very people you allow on your show who actually work in Hollywood, who have actually worked with people like, you know, like Tyler Perry and other individuals, that's the same establishment you're trying to so-called hold accountable. But yet you are asking the very same establishment to have some of their entertainers, comedians, and artists come on your platform, which is hypocritical to me. It's very hypocritical to me, because at the end of the day, should be like, all right, we should be talking about Will's comeback and what's next for Will, and, you know, the goodness of the success of seeing Martin on screen again and seeing Will on screen again, and how excited we are to see this movie, and talk about how well the press and the press junkets and the premieres are doing. But that video was relegated about Will Smith doing something 2 years ago that was addressed multiple times. Now, I'm going to point this out because, again, John Abba with 1B has selective outrage, but also selective memory. You see, Chris Rock didn't say much about the slap until he had his special Selective Outrage, where he referred to his wife and him as bitches. Chris Rock's words, not mine, but he referred to them as bitches. At the end of the day, not only did Chris Rock get a nice check from Netflix doing something or doing a comedy special as he did, the man was able to unleash how he felt about that situation live on a prominent streaming service, literally the biggest streaming service on the planet. And he was compensated by it. Will was humiliated even after the special, before the special, and after the special. The point I'm making is that after Chris Rock and Will Smith have addressed that very issue, it should no longer be a conversation. And if we're going to promote, like for instance, if we're going to promote movies or up and coming TV shows and things of that nature, and we've had Will Smith and and we have had Will Smith and other individuals do questionable things. Those questionable things should not be addressed while promoting a movie or promoting a show. Part of the reason why Will and Martin were able to do a successful press tour and for Bad Boys is because of the fact that the studio and even probably Will's team was like, you cannot ask him about the Chris Rock slap. And rightfully so, because they're there to promote a movie, not revisit past history. They're there to promote what's going on now. And that's what I'm saying. Like, what do we want? Like, what do we want as Black people? What do we want? Like, do we want to see our Black men and Black comedians and Black people succeed, or do we want to constantly remind them of where they have fallen? Like, even the tweet you popped up about, you responded to me about your tweet. You basically told me consistent forgiveness is why we continue to be pushed around. I'm like, at the end of the day, I think as a media company owner, you shouldn't allow what the comment section or anybody else in that matter who, that doesn't necessarily have that major substance to push you around. Like, at the end of the day, people are going to have their opinions about how they feel, but like, that shouldn't stop you from having forgiveness, because at the end of the day, Will Smith didn't do anything directly to you or anybody else in the comment section. He did something to one man and one man alone. Granted, everybody on the planet saw it, and we feel a way about it, but at the end of the day, Will Smith doesn't owe us anything. He only owes Chris Rock and the Rock family a conversation. But as far as him doing future movies and projects and whatever, I guarantee you this platform, Comedy Hype, it's going to bring up stuff like, oh, I wonder how Will Smith is doing after the 2022 slap. And they're probably going to keep addressing it all the way up to 2042. Because clearly they need the content and they need to make it. Now, this is not the first time Comedy Hype has done videos like this amongst their people. Our black people, Black entertainers, things of that nature. Now, John Abba talked about in the beginning of this video optics and holding people accountable, right? This is the same Comedy Hype who interviewed Tasha K twice. Optically, from just from a regular viewer perspective, if you know who Tasha K is, optically, it doesn't look good that you invited her on your platform to continue talking shit about the people that she has talked shit about. And this is also the same woman who lost the court case for lying on Cardi B because she said Cardi B said some things and did some things that were obviously a lie. That is what Tasha K did. And then she had to file bankruptcy. She fell into a financial bad place. And you invite her, that woman, to comedy hype? But yet, when you had her on your show, you didn't hold her accountable. You didn't call her out for lying about an artist. You haven't called her out on any of the stuff that she's talked about or the people that she's talked about. Now, y'all will ask her questions of why, but you never told her, hey, do you realize that your platform promotes a lot of negativity? And maybe the type of energy you receive on your platform is negative is because of the celebrities that you talk about. Now, me personally, I have nothing against Tasha K. I don't know her personally. I don't know what she does on a day-to-day. I can only go by from what I see. And what I see is that she constantly has a site, a website, a YouTube channel, and she uses her social media platforms to talk negatively about celebrities, comedians, reality stars, industries, you name it, she does it. And she says she's coming from an unbiased place. But yet people are sending you cease and desist. See, there's a difference between reporting the news and having an opinion about the people that you're reporting the news about. There's a difference. And if your opinion is essentially negative and slanderous, it's, people are not going to receive that well. And slowly, comedy hype is becoming that. To prove what I'm saying, they're coming that. Let's scroll down. So you see, I'm about to pull up the screen here. All right. So just follow me on my mouse. Right. Okay. So this video right here that came out 2 weeks ago, where it says Chris Rock returns with "Everybody Hates Chris" following the Will Smith controversy. First of all, there is no Will Smith controversy because that happened 2 years ago. So again, they're doing this to get clicks. And not only that, it was announced that Chris Rock gets to bring back one of the most funniest like culturally great show, Everyone Hates Chris, back in animated form, and Chris Rock's attached to it. Some of the old cast members attached to it. You got new cast members attached to it. It's going to be a revolutionary thing amongst this is gonna basically continue the lineage of what we got before, from the live action TV show to animation. Now, John Abba wasn't on this particular episode, but because I know Symphony works for Comedy Hype, she has to address it because I'm assuming John Abba told her to. I don't know. I'm just assuming. Correct me if I'm wrong, but let's just say he did tell her to address that the Oscar slap. That announcement had nothing to do with Will Smith and the Oscar slap. That video you guys released should have been only about the animated show, this show coming back in animated form, and how excited we are to get one of the TV sitcom icons back, to essentially retell their story in another way. But did you do that? No. Parts of the video were explaining how excited they were, so I will give them that. But they had to insert the Will Smith slap. Really? What does that have to do with this announcement? What Will Smith controversy? You see, if you want to really talk about the Will Smith slap and controversy so much every time there's a story about Chris Rock doing something or Will Smith doing something, it's only because, again, maybe you have it out for Will, or maybe maybe you don't like Will Smith. I don't know what the case may be, but it had nothing to do with Chris Rock relaunching at least Everybody Hates Chris. So again, this is an example of comedy hype trying to hold or trying to put someone down based upon what they did in the past and not give them grace amongst that. Also, I want to point out, because I talked about Tasha K. You also had another person on your show that you interviewed. I think his name was Brother Bilal. That same man was also being interviewed by Tasha K. And he also was interviewed by Andy Signore. If you don't know who Andy Signore is, Google him, and I'm sure you'll get just read the Hollywood Reporter website on what they said about him. And basically, Brother Bilal was interviewed on Comedy Hype, and he did nothing but disparage Will Smith because he used to work for Will Smith. He disparaged him. For what reason? I don't know. Why is he doing it? Why did he continue to do it? I don't know. He said on Tasha K's platform, he saw him and I won't say who, another actor, engaging in somewhat sexual intercourse. And he's doing this for what reason? At the end of the day, why would you invite people on your platform to smear other Black people in the same space? I don't understand it. I don't get it. Now, there's a difference between telling your story and telling the experiences that you have had versus being on a platform, having someone allow you to be on their platform and just blatantly smear them. Clearly, this man has an issue with Will Smith and has a problem with him. Why invite him to your platform just so he can talk shit about him? Again, Comedy Hype, because they don't have anything better else to talk about, are inviting guests and individuals to smear other people that they so-called care about, or they so-called want to uplift or hold accountable, or whatever the case may be. So for me, Comedy Hype, I believe, needs to do a better job and not only reporting the news, but also giving people grace for things that they have done in the past. And my thing is not only that, like if you're gonna okay, my thing is if you're going to do that to Will, how about you do that to everybody? Everybody that comes on your show. So when TK Kirkland comes on your show, talk about his misgivings, talk about his past. To when Ari Spears or whoever else comes on your show, talk about their past. And I hope you feel the same, but like keep that same energy when other comedians or entertainers or actors are on your platform. Because to me, it's asinine that you can't let something like that go, that you feel like that was okay to relegate him to something that he did in the past, right? What he did in the past, and not allow him to succeed in what he's doing now. To me, it's messed up, and I feel like, again, Comedy Hype doesn't have anything better else to do. Now, I'm going to wrap this up, and I wouldn't be surprised if Comedy Hype copyright claims this video, because I just wouldn't be surprised. But also, take a look at this. Comedy Hype also did a video 10 days ago. Chris Rock reportedly pissed at Will Smith for Bad Boys 4 slap. By the way, spoiler, there is a scene where Will Smith gets slapped in Bad Boys 4 if you haven't seen it. But why would Chris Rock be pissed about that? Because it's a movie. Now, by the way, according to reports, Chris Rock has not confirmed or denied that. So we don't know if he's pissed or not. And if he is, I would just say to Chris Rock, well, Chris Rock, you were able to get your lick. Well, I won't say your lick back, but you were able to financially come up from this incident. So, I mean, at this point, if you're still pissed about this, I think that you and Will need to have a conversation if that's truly the case. But again, because of Will's rise and what he was able to do with Bad Boys 4, Comedy Hype felt the need to again readdress this issue of Will Smith slapping Chris Rock and getting away with it, as John Abba says. Now I'm going to conclude this video with this. A few days ago, John Abba put out this video of Shannon Sharp being interviewed by Cam Newton. And I'll play a certain part I want you guys to hear. And he was basically saying, like, how come other black comedians or entertainers or actors won't come on his platform? Or, you know, why is it okay that you do something else like Vlad or CNN or anything like that? Well, here's the difference. Here's the difference that I see, at least. You know, Comedy Hype's the only platform I know who would interview someone's ex-wife, like Earthquake's ex-wife, to smear him. Nothing she said in those videos were positive about him at all. And I'm glad that Earthquake came to Comedy Hype and addressed John Abba directly about what was said. But in this most recent video he put out, he was basically saying he was trying to dive deeper into Earthquake's life and get all sides of his life. That's why he interviewed his ex. Earthquake even said, why would you interview her where she's done nothing in the comedy space at all for you to interview her? See, as an interviewer, in my opinion, a real interviewer, this is just my opinion. When you're just interviewing someone because of their talent and the things that they do, you want to dive into the history of how they got into it, how they got started, who supported them. Basically, you want to get somewhat of a mini life story to how it all started to where they are now and future projects that they have lined up. What Earthquake said in that interview, which I agree with, is that she has done nothing. And she literally had an agenda when she went up on your platform to talk about Earthquake. And here's the thing, I don't think as a media company, you should invite people on your platform who ultimately want to smear other individuals, especially comedians, entertainers, you know, anyone that you would allow on your platform. It's not cool that they come on your platform and smear them. That's why he said she should have never been interviewed at all. So this whole thing of getting all sides of the interview, no, that's not only is that irresponsible as a media owner, it's just asinine. Because clearly, like, here's the thing, and this is just common sense. not everybody is cool with their exes. They're not. So to invite somebody's ex-wife, I mean, really? Really? Like, come on, like, like, for instance, you would, like, even TK Kirkland, when he was on your show, he said, yeah, y'all should don't do anything like that again, because that's not cool. But because you felt it was necessary, right? You had her on her platform. You had her on your platform. At the end of the day, Comedy Hype, I believe, has lost its way from what I believe was a good channel to watch original content. So let's go down to this video right here. I'm actually going to fast forward it to the middle, and we're going to address what he had to say.
Story. And relatively 3 years later, I would join Earthquake in Los Angeles at a dinner table to help celebrate his comedy special with Netflix and Dave Chappelle. So to the Black entertainers who choose to take things so personally when it comes to reporting on their lives as public figures, please understand that we are simply here to tell a story. You have to let us do our job. You see, when CNN decided to interview Osama bin Laden in 1997 after he would publicly declare jihad against the United States of America, the people stopped watching or interviewing with CNN. D.L. Hughley has been on CNN many of times over the years. In fact, in 2008, he would even have his own show with a network called D.L. Hughley Breaks the News. So DL, a terrorist is more excusable than a comedian who decides to air out a few fellow comedians? That is hypocritical. My perspective is some of us feel conflicted when they see others doing good, especially if they didn't need our help to get there. At the end of the day, you not supporting these outlets and running to white outlets only exposes your inferiority complex and needing of white society to co-sign you to make you feel validated. Good boy. Is that what you want to hear? Now, Black talent needs Black media, and Black media needs Black talent. And the more we collaborate with each other, the stronger we can both grow and learn along the way. D.L. Hughley, the door continues to be open for you to come on our platform to share your perspective and even respond to my position. This is how true platforms work. So what do you guys think about Shannon Sharpe's reveal that it's hard to...
Okay. The one thing I can't agree on is that people should not take certain things personally when you are reporting on the story. So I do agree with that. John, you're no different than a CNN or Vlad TV. Right in the beginning of the video, when I said that we're gonna come back to what you said about optics and holding accountable. Listen, I can't speak for why certain comedians won't come on your show like D.L. Hughley or won't come on like shows like Shannon Sharpe. But if they are not comfortable on going on certain platforms because of what it's become, not only is it their right not to do that, but they don't owe Black media anything. They don't. Now, I would love to see D.L. Hughley be on more Black media things if he hasn't already been a part of a multitude of Black media things. I know he has worked closely with Roland Martin. I know he's done things with Hollywood Unlocked. I know he's done some things with other individuals in the media space. So he has done some Black media. Just because he hasn't done your Black media company doesn't necessarily mean he's not doing Black media. And I would say this, the reason why I said you're no different than a CNN or a Vlad TV, you literally have invited people on your platform where they have aired out comedians, actors, and other entertainers, and you gave them a platform to talk about why they were airing them out. And people who are in this space are not going to want to be on platforms that allow people to do stuff like that. They're not. And you just literally said, good boy. Literally, now, as a Black person, we already know what that term means, right? Now, I know you weren't directly calling DL a good boy, but you're insinuating that him seeking white validation and him hearing that term good boy is something that DL is doing. That's why he's doing these other platforms like CNN, Vlad TV, and these of that nature. You think after those comments, he's going to want to come on your platform and even address your disposition? If he does, hey, I'm here for it, because I think that what you said again was bullshit. Was bullshit. Now, at the end of the day, here's why I stand. I'm coming to the end of this. Here's why I stand. I'm all for, you know, uh, uh, Black media companies reporting stories, talking about current events, and having good conversation. And I think that conversations should be definitely broken up equally amongst whoever's on the panel, whoever the commentators are. I think it should be an even conversation. And for the most part, I can acknowledge that Comedy Hype has provided very even conversations over the years amongst a multitude of subjects. So I'm not going to act like you guys have not done that. What I'm disappointed in is that, in particular, John Obb, as a media head, as a media owner, you are using your platform irresponsibly, and you are dragging down the very people that you would want on your show. But yet you call that accountability. I don't call that accountability. I call that you're just dragging someone down. Because that man, listen, I'm not telling, I'll say this. You don't have to forgive the things that people have done, but to constantly remind them of what they did and try to stop them from succeeding, or just basically, oh, Will, your movie hit $100 million, but remember you slapped Chris Rock. Like, to have that mindset when someone's trying to move on is asinine. And as a Black person, like, how would you feel if you were reminded about the things that you did in your past when you're trying to build this company and do, like, how would you feel? How would you feel? I mean, I think again, what you're reporting and the things that you are doing, things like this at least, is beneath you. It's low hanging fruit. And trust me, you don't have to in order for you to keep your content going, you don't have to do videos like this. But this is a conscious choice that you're choosing to make. And I'll end with this. I'll end with an example. When the Martin Lawrence show was doing the reunion on BET, I believe it was Gayle King. Gayle was interviewing Tisha Campbell, who plays Gina, and Gayle had asked her, you filed the lawsuit, you had these issues with Martin. Is that brought up in the whole Martin reunion? And Gayle and Tisha Campbell was it seemed like she wasn't ready for that question. But Tisha Campbell basically said, like, we focused on the love, the all the good parts and the reuniting of the cast members of the show. So we focused on the good of the show. None of that was being brought up in the reunion. Martin and Tisha Campbell have already had forgiven each other, at least before there was a reunion coming. They have forgiven each other long before our reunion was ever announced. And Martin loves her family. I'm sure her family loves Martin's family. So everybody has gotten along. Now, obviously, there has been a history of not everyone getting along, but everyone has forgiven one another and moved past whatever BS that has happened in the past. When you watch the Martin reunion, none of their transgressions or what happened in the past was addressed. They focused on what made the show unique. They focused on what they focused on what made the show Martin. They focused on the good things. They focused on what made people laugh, what made them laugh, what ultimately what Martin was able to do for our community. And they highlighted significant moments. And all I'm saying is as Black people, I think we need to learn how to forgive and give grace. And when someone is having their moment, not remind them of the bad shit that they did to try to pull them down. And that's what Comedy Hype has been doing. My name is Alex. Thank you for watching this video. John, if you want to be interviewed on the show, feel free to hit me up. You know my Twitter handle. So I'm not afraid of having you on the show and addressing you directly. If you want to invite me to your show and address me directly, I have no problem doing it. But I'll say this in closing, because I've probably said in closing like multiple times. I would tell you as a media owner, you need to do better. You need to do better. Y'all have a good night.